Welcome! Today, we're diving into a really complex but absolutely crucial topic: how to strategically sell a closely held business. We're going to focus on the critical tax implications because, honestly, that's what can make or break a deal.
Think of this as a kind of strategic puzzle. We're going to use solid, academically grounded principles to explore the key tax considerations and really the creative options that are available to you as a business owner.
And this is the big question, isn't it? It's the challenge so many entrepreneurs face. You've poured your life into building something of value, and now when you look towards retirement, the question is, how do you unlock that value without giving a huge chunk of it away in taxes?
Okay, so first things first, what exactly are we talking about? A closely held corporation. It's the typical structure for a family business or a company led by its founders. And it's this very close relationship between the owner and the company that creates some really unique opportunities, but also some real challenges when it's time to sell.
So here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off with the owner's core dilemma, and then we're going to explore two very different sales scenarios. First, selling to an outside party, and second, selling to family. And as you'll see, each path has its own set of powerful strategies.
All right, let's jump right in. An owner's exit isn't just about finding a buyer and getting a check. It's this delicate balancing act. You've got to maximize your own retirement fund, you need to accommodate a buyer who might not have deep pockets, and of course, you have to do all of this while minimizing the tax hit.
Okay, so let's walk through our first scenario. Imagine an owner who wants to sell out to a group of their trusted senior managers. This happens all the time, but it presents a very specific and very tricky financial puzzle to solve.
So meet our case study. We'll call him Mr. X. He's ready to retire, and he'd love to sell to his loyal managers. The problem? They just can't afford to buy the company outright. And to make things even more complicated, his corporation doesn't just hold the core business assets, it's also holding some of his personal investments, things like bonds and maybe some real estate.
And right here, you see that classic tension, that push and pull. Mr. X, the vendor, needs to maximize his cash out for a secure retirement. But the managers, the purchasers, they need to minimize their cash in. They're hoping to fund this whole purchase from the company's future earnings. On the surface, these goals look like they're in direct opposition.
So how do you solve a puzzle like this? Well, the trick isn't to sell the entire corporation. The solution is to get creative with what we call an asset sale. So the managers form a brand new company, and with the cash they do have, they buy only what's absolutely essential to run the day-to-day business. Everything else, they just lease it from Mr. X. And what's so cool about this diagram is how it visualizes the flow of value. See, Mr. X's original company, the For Sale Corporation, it basically morphs into a holding and leasing company. It gets to keep all the hard assets, the really valuable stuff, and in return it receives this steady, secure stream of income from the new purchase corporation, which is now off and running the actual business operations.
And this just brilliantly illustrates a true win-win. Mr. X gets to defer a huge tax bill, he secures a fantastic retirement income stream, and he even gets to keep appreciating assets like the real estate. And the managers, they get to buy the business they know and love with the limited capital they actually have. It really is a masterclass in creative deal structuring. All right, so let's switch gears completely. What happens when the buyer isn't a third party, but your own family? As we're about to see, the entire emotional and financial dynamic shifts. It's less about pure profit and much more about preserving a legacy.
And this is the crucial point. When you're selling to a third party, you're focused on one thing, the price. But with family, you're focused on a smooth transition. The goal isn't just about securing your own retirement anymore. It's about ensuring the business and the next generation can thrive long after you're gone.
This shift in goals, well, that opens the door to one of the most powerful tax planning strategies available for family businesses, what's known as the estate freeze.
An estate freeze does pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It locks in the current value of the parent's shares for tax purposes. Why is that so powerful? Because it means any future increase in the company's value, all of that growth, completely bypasses the parent's estate and goes directly to the children, tax-free. It's an incredible tool.
So how does this actually work in practice? Well, a really common way to do it is through a holding company structure. The child creates a new company, a holdco, which then buys the parent's operating company. The parent doesn't take cash. Instead, they take back fixed value preferred shares. This effectively freezes their stake, allowing the child's common shares to capture all that juicy future growth.
Okay, let's put some numbers to this to make it real. Let's imagine the family business today is valued at $1.5 million. This is the value that the parent wants to freeze.
Now here's where a really powerful tax provision comes into play, the lifetime capital gains deduction. For 2025, this allows a business owner to shelter over $1 million of capital gains from tax when they sell shares of their company. This makes the estate freeze an incredibly efficient way to transfer all that value without triggering a huge, immediate tax hit.
And you know what? The landscape for these family transfers has actually gotten even better recently. Some legislative changes have made passing a business down to the next generation more tax-friendly than ever before.
So, the key takeaway from this new legislation, Bill C-208, is that it levels the playing field. It used to be that selling to your child could actually trigger less favorable tax treatment as a dividend. Now, the tax code lets you treat that sale as a capital gain, exactly as if you were selling to a complete stranger. This is a huge deal.
But of course, it's not a free-for-all. To get this favorable tax treatment, you have to prove it's a genuine business succession, not just some clever tax maneuver. The rules lay out two different paths. The first is an immediate transfer, which happens over 3 years. This requires the parent to hand over both legal and day-to-day control of the business pretty quickly, within 36 months. It also means the next generation has to be set to receive the majority of the future growth, and at least one child must be actively working in the business. The other option is a more gradual transfer, over 5 to 10 years. This gives a lot more flexibility, but it still has strict criteria. The parent has to give up day-to-day management, and the child must stay actively involved for at least 5 years after the transfer. The bottom line is, these rules are there to make sure it's a real handover to the next generation.
So, we've looked at a tax-deferred sale to a third party, and we've explored the estate freeze for family transfer. Which path is the right one? Well, the answer, as it always is in tax, comes down to understanding the trade-offs.
And this table just lays out that core compromise perfectly. For the vendor, the seller, delaying the tax is a massive pro. But the con is that they are taking on more financial risk by keeping an interest in the business. For the purchaser or the buyer, the big pro is needing less cash up front. But the con, the flip side, is that they might get fewer tax deductions to use down the road.
Ultimately, every single business sale is unique. The right choice is always going to depend on your financial needs, the capabilities of your buyer, and your own personal goals. And that leaves us with this final critical question to reflect on. Are you just selling a company, or are you passing on a legacy?